meeting of November the 8th. If you are not satisfied with the decision made by the Traffic and Parking Commission, you may appeal the decision by filing for a writ of certiorari with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of the entry of the Commission's decision. We advise that you seek your own independent legal advice to ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been met. Before we get started, I'd like to welcome Lieutenant James Williams from the Metro Police Department. Thank you. I think we'll be seeing you more regularly. That's the plan. Well, that's great. And then I missed the meeting when Councilmember Henderson joined us, but I'd like to welcome you to our commission. I know that you are very passionate about the issues that we deal with, and it's great to have you on board. Make a motion for an approval of today's agenda. Is there a motion? We have a first. Is there a second? We have a first and a second. All in favor? Aye. Been approved. Request approval of the minutes of the October 11, 2021 meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
We have a first. Is there a second? Second. We have a first and a second. All in favor? Aye. Been approved. Approval of the consent agenda. Please note that items on the consent agenda will be voted on at a single time. No individual public hearing will be held, nor will the commission debate these items unless a member of the audience or the commission requests that the item be removed from the consent agenda. Does anyone have any issues with the consent agenda they'd like to consider independently? Okay. All right. Welcome Councilmember Cash from District 18, who is here for an item on the consent agenda. So thank you, Councilmember, for coming. Okay. We'll read the consent agenda and ask for approval. Item A is a speed limit change, a request for the reduction of the speed limit on McGavick Pike from Maple Crest Drive to Pennington Bend Road from 40 miles per hour to 30 miles per hour. It's SR 1454281, requested by Councilmember Syracuse. Who's also here? Okay, sorry. My apologies for, I guess my glasses need to improve. So, thank you. Item B, authorized loading zone, a request to establish a passenger loading zone at 1517 Church Street, Tribe and Play Bars from Wednesday to Saturday, 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. This would be SR 1458473, requested by business owner. Item C, modify the parking zone, a request to modify the existing residential permit parking on Ackland Avenue, both sides, 12th Avenue South to 15th Avenue South, from 24 hours with 2 hours limits to 24 hours with no limit. This would be SR 1463896, requested by Councilmember Cash. Item D, speed limit change, a request for the reduction of the speed limit on the following streets within the Carruthers Farm neighborhood. On Carruthers Road from Battle Road to Clement Street from 30 to 25 miles per hour. On Grace Point Lane from Clement Street to Park Terrace Lane from 30 to 25 miles per hour. On Winding Creek Drive from Fairfield Circle to Fairchild Circle to Park Terrace Lane from 30 to 25 miles per hour. This is SR 1424387, requested by resident. The consent agenda has been read. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Okay. There's first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
It has been approved. Thank you, council members. Okay. Deferred business item. Parking meter removal. Authorized removal of 5 parking meters on the north side of Chet Atkins Place at 19th Avenue South, requested by Hoare Construction. Is someone, Mr. Hammond, you'd mentioned someone might be here? Oh. Okay. Step forward, please. Yes, push the button and please identify yourself.
Is that the right one? Yeah.
Yeah.
Beth Ostrowski, I'm with KCI Technologies, 5539 Knob Road. So, basically, I want to spend just a minute talking about this request. I think it's important to note, we're not asking for any action on this today. I can take it off? Okay. We're not asking for any action on this today. We just want to kind of talk it through, hear your thoughts, and so we can either pull this and resubmit, or amend the request. So it's important to note a few things. First off, yes, the approved conditions of the SP do indicate a two-lane approach for the eastbound approach of Chet Atkins as it hits 19th. You can see it there. That is the original reason why we felt that these parking spaces would need to be removed. But as you can see here also, our project driveway that goes to, this one I believe goes to above grade parking, and our loading bays are also off of Chet Atkins. If you look at the space between the driveway and 19th Avenue, that is just shy of 100 feet. It's about 95 feet. So what is available in order to accommodate site distance and meet metro requirements to be 30 feet from the intersection or from the driveway gives us about 35 feet remaining to put in a replacement parking space or some other use, should we not have this two-lane approach. The other thing that you can't see on this image, but you can see in the full site plan, is that there is another access that is a porte-cochere that goes through off of 19th further to the north that provides access to the lower floors of the garage. The lower floors of the garage would serve any of the retail parking and a little bit of like targeted or reserved parking for the office space, but most of the daily parkers going to the office space would come in here off Chet Atkins. I'm just here to answer questions, honestly, so that we can revise our request to meet, both meet what the SP requires, but also what's going to satisfy the commission.
Thank you. Any questions? What's currently there now? Refresh my memory, please.
So there are 5 parking spaces on the north side of Chet Atkins. You can see one of the cars there in the distance. We have looked at the possibility of whether those parking spaces could be shifted to the south side, and there are 3 driveways kind of along this project frontage on the south side of Chet Atkins that would really prevent that from happening.
Okay. Any comments? Questions? Concerns? Council member.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I had questions at last meeting, so I appreciate the deferral and the study being sent to us for reference purposes. And so I see in our analysis that staff recommends denial and leaving a single lane eastbound approach intact. And so I heard you speaking to potentially withdrawing, or, so that I guess this body now with the complete set of information and appreciating your willingness to answer questions, I guess, do you have a preference in that regard? I mean, I guess procedurally, Chair, I would be interested to know, as far as making a motion, is it to their detriment if we follow staff's recommendation, and then do they reapply, or just procedurally, I'd be interested to know the applicant's preference, and from a staff council standpoint, what is best.
What's your preference for today? Please, ma'am.
I would prefer we aren't denied. I would much rather withdraw
Draw.
if that was the direction we're going, because I believe that we can't resubmit for 6 months if we are denied.
Right.
I'm not a lawyer. It feels cleaner to me to withdraw and to resubmit. But if it's cleaner in some way for the commission to change the request didn't come from KCI, so maybe it's,
Right,
the
okay.
withdrawal means that KCI could resubmit it as opposed to the contractor who did the original submittal.
Okay.
But I have a question.
Yes, ask away,
If the
please.
staff is recommending denial, that's what I'm reading, then I would move that we deny.
Could we hear from staff concerns, because
Absolutely, thank you.
Please.
I'll give you a little perspective from the Department of Transportation. As we have looked at this, and this has come back before you a couple of times now, and now with us being new staff, I mean, one of the complications here is that the site plan that you saw earlier with a left turn lane, a through lane with a shared right turn lane, those were recommendations of our department. Now, this goes back a few years, but those were conditions that were put on this approval of this development by us. And now we look at this, kind of with fresh eyes as we are working a little bit under a new paradigm and a new department. And because this has come back before us, we have to be able to speak to this. And we look at this plan, and there's plenty of things that we are fine with, but we don't like the 3-lane approach on that western leg of the intersection. One of the reasons there, you see that offset. You see how the roads come in and they're not directly across from each other. And the developer has tried to mitigate that with some striping and with some pulling the curb back in some areas to try and line that up. We're not convinced still that that's the best approach for trying to line those up. I would much rather leave those lanes kind of unmarked, just like you have on the eastern side of the intersection, and you may see that on one of the other pictures. That's also right there, if you look across the intersection, that's more how we would envision leaving that approach to that intersection. But the main reason we like leaving it alone, and I want to soften a little bit in saying we would request that you deny it. We're not really sold on the idea of removing all 5 parking spaces for this plan, but at the same time, we do acknowledge some of that parking is going to have to be removed if that driveway is going to be at the location shown. We're just not keen on turning all of that curb space over for the purposes of the development. It might be a small amount, and we had that figure there, and we certainly agree with Ms. Ostrowski's assessment that there's about 30 to 40 feet that we can work with in that. But we think that's very, very valuable space to us, whether that's parking space, scooter corrals, loading zones, passenger loading zones. There's all kind of uses in this area that we think are more advantageous than another turn lane at a stop-controlled intersection. So that's where we stand on it. We concur that we would hate to deny the removal of the parking and then them not be able to bring back a better plan to us in the near future. And so we would hope that that's the way this would go.
So would it be, in a sense, better to defer this indefinitely in the hopes of getting a better plan worked out between NDOT and the developer?
Whether we call it a deferral, an indefinite deferral, or a withdrawal and give them the ability to bring it back to us makes no difference. I think that's more of the, a procedural question for us.
Okay.
Well,
Yes, Ms.
Just the only difference between that is that withdrawal would be at the request of the applicant, and the deferral would be a motion by the commission.
but Saber, didn't you ask for just denial?
I'm following staff recommendations, especially with pedestrian safety at this point, to deny it.
I will clarify one other thing. At the time we wrote this, we had one conversation with the developer. They were not ready at that point to deny. And so as we've had more time to flesh that out, we've had subsequent conversations, and I think we've all landed on that agreement that while we don't like the plan that is shown now, We do think they would, and I think they've shown a willingness to work with us to develop what is a better plan. So we're very much in favor of either deferral or withdrawal to resubmit a better alternative.
Then I withdraw my motion to make a motion for denial.
Make a motion to what?
I'm withdrawing my motion.
She withdrew her motion.
Right.
Okay.
So,
Wiping the slate clean.
all right. So it sounds like in one sense, other than a recorded vote on a deferral, withdrawal and deferral are in essence almost the same from a practical point of view,
I mean,
as far as consideration of the item.
deferral requires a vote. If the applicant, requests that it be withdrawn and that it no longer be on the agenda, I guess you just have to modify your previous approval of the agenda, so that might require a vote as well.
Okay.
Or do you need a motion?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Ostrinsky, my apologies for any mispronunciation.
It's okay. Thank you, sir. If there's not other discussion, I would like to request to withdraw.
Okay. All right.
We need a motion to amend our approval of the agenda.
Yes.
Our approval of the agenda.
Yes, to remove this item as an item upon which you need to vote.
All right. If you'd like to make that motion, please.
So moved.
Okay. We have a motion to modify the agenda as this item's been withdrawn. Is there a second? We have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So that's, we'll look forward to seeing you again. I think one of the issues that kind of came up just in reading through things is, I know the Planning Commission looks at a lot of items, and some of which, get approved that never happen. And they kind of run against some of the things that we see. And so, trying to find a way to work together going forward to make sure that, we can alleviate these potential conflicts. So, all right, thank you. All right. Mr. Hammond, do you have anything else?
I would just add to that this case has opened that discussion back up between us and our counterparts at planning to think about the procedures there, maybe some of the verbiage that's in the conditions of approval in the SP that we would condition that based on this body's approval and so forth. What we don't want to do is change this. Again, these were conditions of approval of a valid formal SP process, and if this commission decides to do something other than what's shown here, we have questions about what that does to that SP. So we'll continue to work with planning on that. Hopefully we'll have some resolution on that before the December meeting, but we'll look forward to doing that.
Okay, that would be helpful, because as you say, NDOT is a new thing. We have a fresh set of eyes. There's been, the things that this commission has looked at over the last couple of years about the curbside space and ways to evaluate it and value it have changed probably from when this project was first submitted. So any assistance would be greatly appreciated.
Yes, sir. And speaking of that, if I may quickly,
yes.
Speaking of a fresh set of eyes, Mr. Brad Freeze has reported to our office as our new chief engineer, and he would like to be at the meeting next month and address you all, and we'll look forward to having him.
That would be fantastic. We would love to do that. And welcome aboard, Mr. Hammond, as our staff person to work on our commission issues. And then can you give just a brief update on where we are with our valet policy? Because it's supposed to go into effect the 1st of January. Is that correct?
That's right. And we can give more of a formal update next month. But yes, as I recall, starting January, we will be sending out the notification that those rates have changed. Now, you may remember that there was going to be a pause on actual implementation of that for the first 6 months of this year, so that would not go into effect until July 1 of 2022. But our plan is to go ahead and send those notifications out. That way it gives us 6 months to work out any kinks, or people say, would you come out and reassess our valet space? Maybe things have changed. Maybe we want to combine with our neighbor down the street, whatever happens. And that will give us some time to do that so that when those go into effect July 1, everything should be worked out. So that's the plan.
Thank you. Do any other commissioners have any comments, concerns, ideas? Yes, council member.
Just a question for staff and Mr. Hammond. I know at last meeting, we said farewell to Mr. Hagerty, and I know that Mr. Sandwith is an engineer in training who is covering that program, I guess, with the assistance of Marty Sewell and the planning department. So do you have any update about traffic calming, just particularly the cycle of the programming, when the next announcements are going to be made, and then the hiring for Mr. Haggerty's position, please?
I do not have that information. We can certainly have an update on the traffic calming program next meeting as well. It'd probably be good to do. I know they continue to have those meetings. I see notifications of the meetings out in neighborhoods all the time, so that work continues. But in terms of how many neighborhoods they're working with and how many they have upcoming, I don't have those details. I also don't have any details on hiring within the department.
I think because I think it's been a while since we've had an update on the traffic calming program, and be interested to get an update on that and where we stand. And then just kind of going back over, a couple of years ago, we started some conversations about residential permit parking. We did valet and the parking meters. And, one of the issues that came out was the data sets that we had on those things. And if we could get some updated information on where we are with data and tracking the curbs, because since that's the curbside, that would be helpful. Okay.
Got it. Yes, sir.
That's it? Okay. If there's nothing else.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
It's been seconded. All in favor? All right. See y'all next time. Happy Thanksgiving.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.